Hello, everyone. I already see in the chat greetings from different cities, different states. My name is Irina Gurin, and I'm thrilled and honored to have been invited to present and share my experiences and insights with all of you. Before I start my slideshow and my presentation, I have a couple of reminders and announcements. Today's session is going to be recorded and archived. So if you missed anything or want to go back and review, you can find it later in the MTNA archives. Please feel free to use the chat for your comments, thoughts, share your thoughts, and answer my questions because I'm going to be asking them. And at the end of the presentation, after a slideshow, I hope we'll have some time for questions and answers. So please, you can actually write your question at any time during the presentation, and I will do my best to answer them at the end. And now a little bit about me. I was born, raised, and trained as a pianist and piano teacher in Ukraine. My formal piano education started when I was just 5 years old and lasted for 20 long years. I went through music school, then spent 4 years in music college, and finally 5 years in the conservatory. During my time in higher institutions, I had 9 years of training in piano pedagogy. This included weekly group classes where we were required to read books, articles, study child psychology, learn, analyze, and perform children's repertoire of all different levels. And of course, it included teaching with guidance of master teachers. When I finished my studies at the conservatory, I thought I knew absolutely everything about piano teaching. In my mind, I was the best piano teacher ever until I had my own students. As soon as I began teaching by myself, I faced many challenges. At that time, I blamed the materials that were available for teachers and students in Ukraine. The books had no color, no artwork. The note size was so small, you can imagine there were like 3-4 pieces, 8 measures long on one page. And the progressing of the difficulty level was progressing way too fast and became overwhelming for a lot of children very quickly. The only aspect that seemed successful in my teaching was developing of my students' technical and sound production skills, which I didn't find strange at that time. After teaching for about 10 years in Ukraine, I immigrated to the United States and discovered a huge number of vibrant, engaging, colorful piano method books for beginners. I thought my problems were finally solved. Unfortunately, very soon, despite all my efforts and all the books I tried, my students seemed bored, uninterested, lacking musicality, and on top of all, they were having lots of tension in their fingers, wrists, hands, arms, which resulted in dry and inexpressive sound. I felt utterly lost. And this was the time when I started my new decade-long research and learning. Again, I dived in countless books, articles, lectures, masterclasses, thousands of videos, both in Russian and English, to find the solutions. It wasn't until 2010 that all my efforts culminated in a huge breakthrough. Finally, I was able to combine everything I had learned from both my training and experiences in Ukraine and USA, and I created my own approach to developing technical and musical skills in a natural, healthy, and sequential way. I'm gonna, turn on the slides. My main goal was to bring to life the words of a renowned Soviet piano pedagogue, Anna Artabalevskaya. Teaching children to play the piano is not just about teaching them to press the right key at the right time. It's about helping them to develop a deep love and appreciation for music and nurturing their creative spirit. Every child is unique, and as teachers, we must be sensitive to their individual needs and abilities and guide them in a way that is both challenging and rewarding. Unfortunately, most of the mainstream method books mainly focus on pressing the right keys at the right time with the right finger. Instead of helping students develop proper technique, inner sense of rhythm and musical ear, contemporary approaches rely entirely on five-finger positions and patterns that lead to developing a lot of tension and dry and not expressive sound. In my research, I discovered that the technical development of a piano beginner needs to be compared to a physical development or growth of a human child. Just like a baby learns to hold its head up, then sit up, then crawl, and take its first steps before running and jumping, piano beginners need to progress step by step as well. Trying to teach a newborn to run or do a split wouldn't work and could even be dangerous. When we get a new student, we have to treat them as our piano babies. We should let them develop the basic techniques and articulations first, and then build up on previously learned skills. Unfortunately, in many early piano lessons, when following the order of the existing piano books, our students are required to do many complex technical skills without any preparation in sequential order. For example, on the very first lessons, they are asked to stretch tiny fingers over 5 grown-up size keys. It's just like doing a split and keeping it for a long time without warming up or any rest breaks. Then they have to curve the fingers before learning and play with all of them before learning to balance on one, the most stable and centered finger number 3. Researching, I was eager to look back into the history of piano technique and found that my own training was deeply rooted in the philosophy and principles of Theodore Leschetizky. Leschetizky was a student of Czerny, together with Liszt, and as you know, Czerny was a student of Beethoven. After his studies with Czerny in Vienna, Leschetizky was asked to move to Russia, and he served as the dean of piano department for more than 30 years in St. Petersburg Conservatory, raising many generations of pianists, wonderful pianists from all over the world, leaving a lasting impact on piano pedagogy. Leschetizky's principles were best described by one of his students, a famous Russian pianist, Isabel Vengerova. They are all described in the book called The Vengerova System of Piano Playing by Robert Schick. Here are some of those principles. The basis of technique is sound production. It means technique must become a tool to produce a beautiful musical tone. Non-percussive touch. The fingers are to be close to the keys and in contact with them for a brief time before playing to avoid a hitting sound produced by a finger striking a key from above. Relaxation. We all know that playing even a single note makes our muscle contract. Therefore, the most essential skill every pianist has to learn is how to quickly and easily switch from tension to relaxation. All muscles must be relaxed except those that are directly involved in sound production. Distribution and application of the weight. Our students must be taught how apply, distribute, and shift the weight of the body and how to adjust it to create different sounds, which in turn would prevent using force and tension. Wrist flexibility. If the wrists are stiff, the sound is going to be sterile and not expressive. Using these principles along with sequence of developing piano technique, starting from basic, fundamental to complex articulations and virtuoso skills, we teachers can achieve amazing results, and not only with gifted students, but with every student. Let's walk through the sequence of developing technical skills. Learning piano should not start with hand position or finger shape. Instead, it must begin from an ergonomically correct sitting posture. And even though every method book has a page where a sitting posture is shown, after the page is turned, everyone forgets about it. Establishing correct posture takes a good couple of months of constant teachers' work with students and parents. We have to make sure the child not only sits properly in the lessons, but also practices at home with correct posture. Of course, adjustable bench and pedal extender are very important for students to have at home. To ensure they practice in the proper position, I require parents to send me videos and pictures of their practice until I see the sitting position, proper one, turned into the habit. But a lot of times, and I heard it from many teachers, when they ask parents to send them pictures of the child practicing at home, they see what you see now on the slides, no matter how well the child is sitting at home. And imagine if they practice like that for the whole week, that becomes a habit instead of proper posture. Theodore Leschetizky stated, "The pianist has to sit tall and unrestrained on the bench and yield to the movements of the arms just like a horseman yields to the movements of the horse. This analogy and image of the horse rider will help the body of even a young child to find the proper position naturally and will require just a little help from a teacher and parent adjusting the height of the bench and the distance from the piano. No lengthy explanations or demonstrations are needed when this analogy is used. So let's experiment together. As you look at these pictures, please follow my directions and then write in the chat what have changed in your own posture after we do it together. I'd like you to change your position from how you're sitting right now in your chair to as you were sitting on the horse that is ready to move. Feel your heels firmly in the pretend stirrups. Sit tall in a saddle, ready to guide your horse. Hold the reins loosely and let your arms float freely in front of the body. You can do it with closed eyes. You can look at the image when you do it. So please write in the chat how you felt, what were your sensations, and how your position has changed when you used this analogy. And I'm looking in the chat. I'm not gonna wait, but I will see when you write how it helped you to establish stance widened. Okay, more balance, excellent. Shoulders relaxed, very good. All right, and instead of telling children, keep your back straight or keep your feet on the stool or on the ground or lean forward, anything which sounds nagging, boring, I just say, where's my horse rider? And they immediately find proper sitting position. Taller, more weight in feet, exactly, and a little bit forward sitting. More alert and engaged, exactly. The back becomes toned, not just relaxed, but toned, ready to go. And that's exactly what we need. Then we need to prepare our body and arms and establish the awareness of how they work together. The weeping willow tree exercise and image are very helpful. I'm going to show you a video of that. And together with my students and me, please do it and then write in the chat how it felt. So at first, let me quickly find the video. At first, it will be a little few seconds of weeping willow tree moving with the wind that is gonna get you into the mood and into the role of weeping willow tree. So we are gonna pretend our body is a trunk and our arms are the branches. Weeping willow exercise. So we are gonna sway our arms slowly in front. Let's try little movements, but don't hold your hands. Just let them like big branches of weeping willow tree, and then slowly bend down. Go down, 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 until you reach the floor. Down, 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 down. And then the same, slowly get up. Keep your heads down. Good girls. Olivia, your hands are a little bit like that. Relax, drop them, shake them. Shake, shake, relax, relax. Okay, let's do it again. Sway, 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 sway. And then go down, down, down. Keep swaying, relax, really relax. Like wind is blowing and the branches are swaying. And then go up slowly. Keep. Just ready? Start swaying. Music. And then we do it with music. After experiencing upper body relaxation, it's crucial to shift focus to smaller muscles and teach students how to transition between tension to relaxation in every joint of arms and hands. I call this exercise marionette exercise. Ready? Wrists, elbows, giraffe, and once more. Wrists, elbows, and giraffe. I hope you did these exercises together with kids, and now please write in the chat how it felt and what you've noticed. And I'm gonna turn back the slideshow. And look in the chat. All right, so please write how you felt doing weeping willow exercise and marionette exercise, what it helped you with. Love how loose and relaxed I feel now. Could feel the tension and relaxation in the wrists. Excellent, great. After establishing a proper sitting position and preparing our body with relaxation exercises, we can finally talk about hand position. Every method book preaches proper hand position. The children are prompted to stretch all the fingers above 5 keys and curve them. I'd like you to experience and experiment what children feel when they do that. Please hold your hand up in front of you and stretch your fingers as far as you can. Hold it for a few seconds and then try to curve them and hold for another few seconds. Look at your hand now and write in the chat how it looks and feels. This position does create somewhat rounded shape, but how much tension is involved in stretching and curving, because young children have little fingers and to reach 5 keys, they have to stretch, stiff like a claw, exactly. Sometimes rigid and tight. Sometimes I tell kids, monster claw, piano monster claw. Exactly. If you look at the slide, the picture on the left is a child's hand in 5-finger position. And the picture of the right is a neutral position when children don't stretch over 5 keys. The muscles feel like they are moving beyond what is natural. Tension up through the elbows, stiff and tension. That's exactly what it feels. The 5-finger position was somewhat something totally new for me when I moved to the United States. I've never even heard about this while living in Ukraine. Here's the explanation from one of the pedagogy books that I found when I started researching. When you play a 5-finger position, the thumb is placed on a certain key, and each of the consecutive fingers are placed on each consecutive white key. When piano lessons start, students keep their hands in this position and play through pieces by just moving specific fingers and reading the music by finger numbers. At first, I found this concept fascinating. Considering it logical and easy to explain to children. Plus, they could play melodies using all 5 fingers at the first lessons. How they played it was another question. However, as soon as students stretched their fingers over 5 keys, the fingers became flat. Hand shape was very stiff and rigid. And despite me constantly reminding them to relax and move their wrists, it wasn't helping. After teaching with 5-finger position method books for the first few months, I began to realize what was wrong with all my students. If you look at the yellow arrow, you see how all the fingers stretched and tense over 5 keys. Blue arrow, the thumbs are lying flat on the keys. Green arrow, finger number 2 is isolated and raised to hit the key from the above using not the natural weight, but instead using force. Orange arrow points to a pinky that is stretched, and there is no way to put it any different way, any different shape. It's flat and it cannot be even curved. And finally, pink arrow. All the students I taught with 5-finger position had this awkward twist in the wrist towards the center of the body instead of the natural curve away from the center. In fact, this shape, if students are not taught to get out of this and stay very long in this position, this is a straight way to tendinitis as soon as they start playing harder pieces for longer periods of time. As a college professor, all my students, bachelor and master degrees who studied in 5-finger position as children had mild to severe forms of tendinitis. Where does the natural hand position for piano playing originate? Just from the anatomy of the human hand. Let's look at the picture on the left. We can clearly see that the thumb is shaped differently than other fingers and moves in the opposite direction. Try to move your fingers and notice that. Now let's look at the picture on the right. The thumb and its ability to easily touch the other fingers allows us humans to firmly grasp and manipulate objects of many different shapes. When the hand grips and holds objects with 4 fingers against the thumb, it effortlessly forms a beautiful arch. This is the natural hand position that doesn't involve any tension and can change and move at any time. And if you would like to try please do and write in the chat how it feels. After we try to do it in the air with the students, we put it on the keys, close to the black keys, and then I take the pencil away and hand continues staying in the same natural or neutral, how I call it, hand position. If you have piano next to you, I would like you to try to do that. And then I'll ask you one very important question. When you hold the pencil, put it on the piano keys and take away the pen or pencil, please take a look at your hand and tell me how many keys your hand covers without stretching. Please write it in the chat. Anyone? How many keys can you cover without stretching? No one has answered. 4. 4. 4. 4 keys. Excellent. Now, imagine 4-year-old or 5-year-old, even 3, 3.5, 4, exactly. Even if you have a huge hand, my hands are really big, I don't cover 5 keys naturally. I have to stretch my fingers for that. Besides, when your hand and fingers are relaxed in the neutral position, you can easily move your wrist up and down, side to side, and even do circular motion. I would like you to try. And then stretch your fingers to 5 or 6 keys and try to do the same with your wrist. And you will notice how much more effort you need and how limited your movements are now when fingers are stretched. It directly affects the flexibility of the wrist. All right. Let's look now at this page from the book I was learning as a child and taught my students in Ukraine. You probably notice that all the notes are played with finger number 3 only. Finger number 3 is conveniently located in the middle of the hand and at the end of the arm, which helps us to use the arm weight and be supported by the finger. Playing with finger number 3 only on different keys naturally creates a neutral hand position because no stretching is needed and it helps to relax the wrists while moving from note to note. Moreover, whole hand is learning to balance and the finger in the middle of the hand is much more natural and comfortable than, let's say, balancing or playing with finger number 1 or 5. Also, while playing the notes with the same finger, the students actually learn the notation instead of reading finger numbers because they use the same finger. In addition, when playing by ear, they actually learn to use their ears instead of learning the order of fingers to play by rote, as we call it these days. So I'm gonna go back to the video and show you my transfer student. This girl had, the one you see on the picture, she had 2 years of lessons prior to coming to me in 5-finger position. She struggled even to name the keys of the piano. She consistently wanted to start on middle C with the thumb, and her hands and wrists displayed extreme stiffness and immobility.
with the right hand starting on C. But not with finger number 1. Remember, right now we learn to play everything with finger number 3. You know why? Because it's the longest finger and it's right in the middle of your hand. That's why when we play number 3, it's really easy for your hand to adjust, to move your wrist up and down. When you play on thumb, you're kind of stuck here.
On the contrary, starting to learn with the third finger helps develop good foundational technical skills within just a couple of months of piano lessons. Let me get to the next video. Oh, it's the same video. No, this is the same video. I'm sorry, we are gonna have to skip it. But you'll see later, non-legato. I'll just go back to slides. When we play with finger number 3, we naturally develop wrist flexibility while moving from note to note. It helps us to switch from tension to relaxation. We create non-percussive touch because while moving the wrist, we have time to briefly touch the key before playing it. And it helps us to use entire arm and distribute the weight while playing with the same finger. After playing for a few lessons with finger number 3 only, the other long fingers number 2 and 4 are added, followed by finger number 5 and later by the thumb. In 6 to 8 lessons, students start playing with all 5 fingers, while all the main principles of piano technique are already established, such as wrist flexibility, switching from tension to relaxation, non-percussive touch, and weight distribution. This type of playing, or the first articulation, which is the touch, that doesn't have any symbols in notation, is called non-legato. In Ukraine, we use the word portamento, but in English-speaking countries, the term portamento refers to string instruments articulation. So here we just call it non-legato. Non-legato is a fundamental and complex articulation that involves the weight of the arm, flexible wrist, fullness of the tone, supportive fingers, and a balanced hand. And it consists of 3 stages of execution. Preparatory stage. Breathe in, wrist goes up. Main stage. Breathe out, gently drop natural body weight in the key, supported by a finger. Listen to the beginning, duration, and the end of every sound. Third final stage. Breathe in, release tension, wrist up. So that was a demonstration of how we play non-legato using a single note, 3 stages. And now I'll start a video that shows how we play series of notes with non-legato articulation. As tempo increases, our preparatory motion will be fused with the relaxation movements. When non-legato skills are established, legato and staccato articulations will develop naturally using just a modification of non-legato. We start teaching legato with 2-note slurs for several reasons. While playing only 2 notes at first, we can focus and listen to a single connection while matching the sounds dynamically. 2-note slurs are one of the main characteristics of classical period of music, a classical style. With 2 notes short motives, we start learning about the shape of the phrases. 2-note slurs evolve from execution of single notes non-legato. It has the same 3 stages, but during the second stage, we carefully step over to another finger, creating a very smooth connection. I'm going to demonstrate it with the video right now. Preparation, when the wrist goes up while we breathe in. For the second stage, we dip down into the key and breathe out. To play legato, we add a little modification. Just before we execute the third stage of non-legato, the relaxation, we gently shift from one finger to another while breathing in again, thus combining the step of moving to the adjacent finger with the third stage of relaxation. Similarly to 2-note slurs, we play 3, 4, and more notes legato. We need to explain to the students that the note in the middle of the skip has to become a bridge between the side notes, which means that the musical goal is even harder than with 2-note slurs. Staccato also evolves from non-legato, but it consists of 2 stages of execution and also uses the opposite direction. For non-legato, we go into the keyboard. For staccato, we push off. I'm going to demonstrate it in the video again. preparation. In order to achieve a correct pushing off movement, the finger should be placed as close as possible to the surface or on the surface. The wrist raises slightly on breath in, not as much as we would do for non-legato, maybe halfway before you're gonna push. The second stage and the last one is pushing off. With the quick movement, the finger bounces off the bottom of the key while the wrist instantly rises up. The wrist performs the function of a spring. The wrist moves up and forward, relaxing immediately. That's where relaxation and second stage fuse together. Fingers still close to the surface. And then we prepare back to the key. And this time, our preparation again is the same as relaxation. They blend together. Even though with my own students I overcame the challenges of technical and musical limitations, I still continue to see transfer students like a little girl in the next video. She had the whole year of piano lessons and she was only 5 with another teacher, and her parents called me and told me she was crying every time she had to practice piano. I really wanted to see what was going on, and I invited them for the interview, and that's what I saw. Let me get to this video. Show me what you can play, honey, how you're playing. Okay, so let's forget about this book. And that was all she could do and all she practiced, just boring and dry 5-finger positions. I knew exactly what I had to do, and this girl turned out to become one of my most joyful, outgoing, happy students in my studio. 2 years later, she won first place at the international piano competition. So we are gonna see the same girl right now, 2 years later, her performance. And this brings us to the end of the presentation. Of course, it's only the tip of the iceberg. And I have 4 years long program for teachers where we work step by step on technique. But now we have to wrap it up, and I would love to answer your questions if you have those. I'm gonna go to chat. I'm happy you liked her performance. Okay. Questions. Are the books you use available in the US? Yes, these books are available actually. It's translated to 14 languages and used in teachers in over 90 countries. And they can be found on my website, irinagurin.com. If you have an older, let me see if it's, oh, sorry, I jumped. Does the horse rider posture work with students who have never ridden the horse? Of course, even if they never sat on the horse, they've seen it. They can see the pictures. I show them the videos, especially the young ones. It's easy to imagine. It's easy to create a very vivid image and try to change the body. There are multiple sizes of violins. Oh, the chat is jumping, sorry. There are multiple sizes of violins and other string instruments. Should there be multiple sizes of piano keys also? This, unfortunately, it's a question not for me. I can't answer that. I believe it's not possible because of the action, because of distance between the strings. I don't think it's possible. It would be nice, of course. What is the name of Ukrainian method you showed examples of? Seems like that would be a great choice for older adult beginners. Unfortunately, the author is Boris Milich. These books are not available here. I brought them from Ukraine, but to be honest, I tried them with American students too, but they didn't work. Kids our days are not used to see anything small and without any color or any story or lyrics. It just didn't work. How do you prevent index finger and pinky from lifting up? If they lift up, it means the hand is tensed. So it's not like you need to work on those fingers. You just need to work on relaxation in general and work on this holding the hand, the pen position. I had my pen somewhere here, holding something and pointing out that they don't need to lift their fingers to hold. So when they understand that and when it clicks, then they stop stretching them and lift them up. I teach at a music school where, for the most part, parents expect to drop off and run errands during the lessons. Those who sit in are on their phones. Do you have any suggestions on how to engage the parents more? You know, for the first couple of years, I probably work with parents more than with students. All the parents required to sit in the lessons, and if there is any kind of emergency, I have always iPad recording the whole lesson. And it's not for a child, it's for parents to know how to help children at home. If I see them checking their mail on phone or playing the games, I ask them a question because I want them to participate in learning process. I don't want them to interfere or ask questions. I want child to be focused, but they have to learn, and video will help them. If child is 4 or 5 year old and lessons are only once a week, what can they remember? It's not going to be any progress. And I always show my students' parents drawing that came from my pedagogy book, from my professor Viktor Makarov. I don't have this image, I'll just describe it to you and you'll visualize it. Imagine a bird and a child on that bird. Bird is flying in the air, and one wing is the teacher and the other wing is the parent. What happens if one wing is not working or not there? The bird with the child falls, nose diving down. And that's what I always tell my parents. We have to be on the same page. They have to trust me. They need to follow my directions, and then the child will soar. I understand that in music schools, situation is different. Maybe you should talk with the school director or try to change something, but at least with private students, you definitely can affect it and involve parents. These videos are also very helpful when children try to argue at home with parents, and they all do. That I know better. My teacher told me that you don't know. And that's where video comes very handful. Look, that's a part of your lesson. Of course, I don't ask children to watch the whole lesson over. It's not going to work. But parents can quickly find the questionable topic and show them what to do and how to do. If you have an older transfer student who has been taking piano lessons for 4 years, what method would you use? I am familiar with your musical journey that serves 4 to 6 years old. Any thoughts of methods that emphasize technique for students who are 10, 11? At this moment, I don't have anything to offer because all the methods that I know are based on 5-finger position. For the heads up, I am working right now on methods for older beginners that is going to be the same as scales, but for older children. But many teachers use scales for older students as well. They just skip stories and go at the faster pace. But the sequence of developing technical skills is exactly the same no matter how old our students are, 4 or 84. They have to be in the same sequence of presentation. I have such very young children immediately season the 5-finger position drills. I guess it's not the question. What's the name of this piece? You're probably asking about my student playing the last piece. Eugenie Rocherol, Let's Boogie. Eugenie Rocherol, American composer, living composer, and the piece is called Let's Boogie. Very fun piece. What are some suggestions you have for using this method with students in an exclusively online studio? This is a tough question because it will take longer and will not be as successful because I use a lot of hand manipulation. And if you saw or will see my videos on YouTube, and I have thousands of videos on my channel also by the name Irina Gurin, you will see that with young children, I always work with the touch. It helps them because music is such an abstract thing. You cannot calculate how far they need to move, and each body is so different. So it's much easier to help them to move their wrist in certain direction or lift, or instead of trying to explain it with the words. So I don't really have a good answer or suggestion, just do your best explaining, but it is very tough. I do have a couple of online students, but their parents are piano teachers who take my pedagogy courses. So that makes it a little bit easier because they can manipulate their hands, children's hands at home. How do you teach turning the thumb under? It's a very big question. We probably don't have time. I'm going to try to answer a couple more questions, but it's important. I'll try very briefly. What we do is important to teach the thumb. Again, we need to understand the thumb doesn't go in the same direction as other fingers. It goes in opposite direction. And it could go inside and out. So when we move the thumb, when we pass it under, the hand needs to remain in the same position without twisting or lifting. Those are most important things. Do you request a foot bench for young children? Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. Because otherwise, they cannot feel their weight. They cannot feel balanced or centered on their seat. How long time shall we use finger number 3 non-legato? It's very individual. With some children, it takes only few lessons, 2-3 weeks. With some kids, it could until they develop this wrist flexibility and supportive finger to support the arm weight, it might take up to 6 weeks, but usually not longer than that. Fingers number 2 and 4 are added right after finger number 3 and also take a couple weeks. And then finger number 5, I use finger number 1 much later when they start playing all 5 notes with 5 fingers, but then they already understand how hand works and they don't just slam the keys with their thumbs. Is there a specific foot bench pedal extender you recommend? I used to use PE2, but I probably changed 10 of them because they all broke. So if you stay in touch with me, either through Facebook or email or Facebook forums, passionate piano teacher community, I am going to release my own pedal extender, my husband's pedal extender, who created it to my needs and to all teachers' needs. So at this, it's going to take another couple months before it arrives and assembled, but yes, please keep in touch. It's going to be amazing. I'm inheriting a Suzuki piano student, 6 years of Suzuki. He can't read, technique is not great. How do I bring him back to basics and reteach without offending him? I'm asked this question very often. The best way is to continue working with these students on what they work at the moment, but as a technique book, I use Tales of a Musical Journey, the sequence, and we start just playing C major scale with finger number 3. Then we start playing it with finger number 2 until we relax the wrist. And I can also use Tales of a Musical Journey as reading, sight reading material, like supplemental. So I don't offend them, but we kind of review and fill in the gaps. And that usually helps them not to feel that they wasted 6 years. And let's get to the last question before we finish. How long do you give technique and music during 30 minutes class? So technique is not something I work separately. Technique and musicality or music always go hand in hand. So whenever I work with students, especially if they're little ones, I have 30 minutes classes only with children who are younger than 7 years old. When they're 7, I have 45 minutes, and most of my students take twice a week lessons. So for technique, I use etudes or scales, but it's not like I have certain time. I can do that any time of the lesson, as long or short we can work on that as students and I can. So that's why in Tails it's all in one, technique and theory and everything else combined in one book. So children don't feel, okay, this is technique, this is theory, this is my piano lesson, this is my performance. It's all together because remember, one of the things I presented today is that technique is the basis of sound production. Technique is supposed to help us to make a beautiful sound, not to be technique for the sake of technique. I am so sorry I couldn't answer more questions because time is over. And please, again, stay in touch. My email is very easy, irinagurin@yahoo.com. Join Facebook forum, passionate piano teacher community to stay on top of all the announcements and just join like-minded teachers from around the world. And again, I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to present for you and hope to get to know you better on other social media fields. Very best wishes for all of you and goodbye.